Hello and welcome to Creature Club. It's a weekly podcast all about the monsters of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm your host. I actually almost said I'm your host, Mikey. I'm not kidding.
Now keep it in,
I don't know where that came from.
And I'm Daniel. Welcome to Creature Club.
And he's Daniel. What's up? It's Quantum Leap rules. We're both different.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a podcast all about the monsters and dragons. Every week we take a monster from the 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons Monster Manual. We break it down in terms of how it works, what it does. We talk about what we like, what we don't like. And then we sometimes try to talk about its lore, its history with our world, perhaps its history within the game of Dungeons & Dragons itself. And then we get nuts and talk about like eating the monster or taking it apart. Just sort of terrible, awful, no good stuff.
Awful imagery for you people at home. So I don't think it's a really good podcast to listen to, I guess, but that's not a great way to start it off. It gets good, don't worry.
So this week we are continuing our dragon, I almost said heist. My brain is... my brain is fucked.
We're not
today,
playing
apparently.
Dragon Heist, unfortunately.
This continues our Dragon series. We are finally breaching the chromatic dragon section of the monster manual and entering into the realm of the metallic dragons.
We are halfway there. Whoa!
We are halfway there.
Living on a prayer.
Except for the templates.
Yes. Oh God.
So. I suppose we can start off by maybe just talking about metallic dragons in general.
Yeah.
The metallic dragons are the opposite sort of karmic effect to the chromatic dragons. So where the chromatic dragons tend to be evil and vicious and cruel and avaricious and greedy, the metallic dragons are more generous, gregarious, kind-hearted, noble. They are still dragons. They still normally covet treasure. But that's kind of balanced by a desire for perhaps some sort of goal or greater good, often with maybe the balance of power in the world, or even just the well-being of common folk in their mind when they act.
Yeah.
Very much unlike chromatic dragons.
And they're kind of they're just the kind of the good version of dragons, really, as in they're the not good version, as in the good, as in good opposed to evil, really.
Yes, yeah.
And that's why they probably don't really pop up a whole lot in people's games, because people tend to play heroic characters, or they try to play heroic characters, and they would fight a evil dragon, not really a good dragon. But there's plenty of fun ways to use the metallic dragons, maybe as like as like a patron to to the players, like be it for like an adventure, or just as a literal like warlock patron, maybe something, just a powerful creature that would help them out, really, just to put into
or
the
like
world.
a mentor or a sage, or like maybe they back them up for one mission, or like they give them something that the party don't have, like they carry them to somewhere so that they can access a dungeon they wouldn't be able to otherwise, things like that.
Absolutely. And also, just if you ever wanted to do an evil campaign, metallic dragons are a good boss battle to have in an evil campaign as well. So
Indeed.
You get to be a evil character and have that dragon fight.
Yeah, and kill a good dragon, which is, I guess, fun because a lot of them have some somewhat interesting powers as well. Will I start us off, Mikey, by reading the section on metallic dragons in the Monster Manual, just to give us a bit of lore to base the sort of a bread base upon which we can spread our sort of buttery opinions.
Yeah, and then I will go in with the second paragraph and throw a bit of ham on there, and then you can put some turkey. And then maybe a bit of lettuce on top, and then we'll close it off with some bread.
I really should get more bread toppings. I keep, because we're all stuck in the house. I hope everyone's staying safe and staying indoors. But I've been making a lot of bread because bread's really easy to make, and homemade bread is really nice. But like, I should really get some cold meats.
Yeah, man, that's great. Oh, they're great.
I've forgotten how good cold meats are.
They're very good.
I watched a really interesting thing yesterday of like, So a person like got a frying pan and threw like beaten eggs in it,
Yeah.
and then on top of the beaten eggs put a tortilla wrap, and then what happens is it absorbs the egg and it cooks the wrap, and then you flip the wrap, and then on the eggy side you cover it in cheese, and then you fold it in half.
And then you make kind of like a burrito, breakfast taco kind of omelet.
Basically, yeah. And it's so good. I'd never done it before, but I literally did it like this morning. And it was just so good.
I have made that before. It's not exactly in the technique you have said. Like, I have made eggs with a bit of cheese in a tortilla wrap. But that sounds like a fun technique. I like the sound of that.
The technique was very easy and very good. I was I probably wouldn't have done it without the technique. The technique's what sort of led me there. And then I had a great time eating it too.
Excellent. Well,
Just covered it with some siracha, and I was like, oh yeah, spicy cheese.
So good.
Sriracha's great, man. We're running out of sriracha. I don't know if that counts as an essential for leaving the house.
Sriracha's good, but just any kind of hot sauce, I think, just with your breakfast tacos is so good.
Spicy breakfast is good.
Anyway, continue, Daniel, and I'll
Metallic dragons.
Metallic dragons. People.
This is all related. This will all be on the test.
They know what we're about. Come on, like this is what we do.
Metallic dragons seek to preserve and protect, viewing themselves as one powerful race among the many races that have a place in the world. That sentence doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, you can put that
viewing
for
themselves
anything.
as one powerful race among the many races that have a place in the world. Like, I get it. Like, the point is that like that's opposite to how chromatic dragons like view everything else as lesser than them, and they just position themselves as powerful, but don't position other races as weak. But like, it's very much like it's a sentence that doesn't kind of
this
okay.
floor is made of floor kind of thing. Goblins seek to preserve and protect, viewing themselves as one powerful race among the many races that place in the world. You can just put anything under metallic dragons there.
Almost, actually, that's probably Elves seek to preserve, and exactly, like just anything. Okay, noble curiosity. Metallic dragons covet treasure, as do their evil chromatic kin, but they aren't driven as much by greed in their pursuit of wealth. Rather, metallic dragons are driven to investigate and collect, taking unclaimed relics and storing them in their lairs. A metallic dragon's treasure hoard is filled with items that reflect its persona, tell its history, and preserve its memories. Metallic dragons also seek to protect other creatures from dangerous magic. As such, powerful magic items and even evil artifacts are sometimes secreted away in a metallic dragon's hoard. A metallic dragon can be persuaded to part with an item in its hoard for the greater good. The greater good. However, another creature's need for or right to an item is often unclear from the dragon's point of view. A metallic dragon must be bribed or otherwise convinced to part with the item. That's trade. That's called trade.
Yeah, like it's not.
You've invented.
I'm going to
again.
bribe you out of this.
If I bribe you for your car, I've paid you for your car. Like I've bought your car. Like that's not. I go to
Starbucks and I bribe the barista to give him a get me a coffee.
Get me the coffee that I want.
Yeah.
If only there was another word for that. Yeah. When it's not a crime.
Sir, I think the word looking for is buy. Shut up.
That word doesn't exist.
But no, but that's kind of, it's saying what we kind of were talking about at the start there, that they are, they still have the dragon, like it's, still a dragon, but they're using their, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, they're using their dragon powers for good. Their dragon, like want for wealth and like magic items, but they kind of don't, not for themselves, more like to protect the world and,
to protect the
from
life
devastation.
cycle.
Yep.
Yeah. There's still tension there where like they want to keep the things they have and it's hard for them to part with them.
Yeah.
But it is the case that it is possible to do so without fighting with them.
Yeah.
So,
I would kind of play it up myself as a dragon would, if it's like a powerful enough artifact, they're like, no, you can't have it because mortals would just, destroy the world with it or something, or it would be, or you would lose it and it'll go to someone who's evil, something like that.
I just do a collateral rule where like the dragon wants one of your magic items.
Yeah. Give me your magic.
That's great because players hate giving up magic items.
That's true. Oh, no. They'll be like, can I persuade to get that?
Can I roll a dice at them so that they leave? No.
I'll try diplomacy. No. All right, go ahead. And you roll the dice. Like, did that work? What do you say?
What do you want? Like, what, you don't even have to tell me what you say in character. Just what do you tell them?
No, but I'm
what is it you want them to do? I just want them to give me the thing for free. Okay, well, they're not going to give you the thing for free.
I roll diplomacy. It's not
But
how
I
it
roll
works.
a check. I do a check at them.
I am the worst for it myself because I'm here making fun of it, but I'm the worst for just rolling a dice and then just expecting people to expecting the
Does this
DM.
fix the problem?
Yeah, to fix exactly. I'm the worst for
I've
that.
rolled this dice. Is the problem fixed now? What? Why? What did you roll the dice for? I just athletics, I think.
Solitary shapeshifters. At some point in their long lives, metallic dragons gain the magical ability to assume the forms of humanoids and beasts. When a dragon learns how to disguise itself, it might immerse itself in other cultures for a time. Some dragons are too shy or paranoid to stray far from their lairs and their treasure hoards, but bolder dragons love to wander city streets in humanoid form, taking in the local culture and cuisine, and amongst themselves by observing how the smaller races live. Some metallic dragons prefer to stay far away from civilization as possible so as to not attract enemies. However, this means that they are often far out of touch with current events. So I've always liked that. I always liked the fiction of a dragon living like amongst humans, just disguised, kind of like wanting to protect, but also kind of just talk to them because they like him. Like silver dragons are a lot like that, where they like humanoids.
Yeah,
so
they like people.
They like people, so they just so they could disguise themselves, or they can literally just be friends with humans. We're kind of go maybe a little bit into that with brass dragons, where they're like they just yap and talk. So you can picture them being that head in the pub who just doesn't shut up to you, but means well.
Yeah, one of the old boys.
Or you can have some of them that are actually just want to kind of like look at you from a distance. Really, they want to watch you and protect from. They don't want to be near you because they want to be solitary. So they can be either side.
On the subject of dragons being people, I think I might have mentioned this before, but I don't know if I've mentioned it here. There's a very fun 14-part anime called Planet Weight.
Okay.
And one of the characters in that has something to do with the sort of idea of a dragon living in disguise.
Right.
It's a very interesting interpretation of the idea. I won't spoil it,
Yeah.
but it's a lot of fun. The persistence of memory. A soul still burns.
A soul. I thought you were about to say the persistence of man.
Metallic dragons have long memories, and they form opinions of humanoids based on previous contact with related humanoids. That's, yes, I mean, yeah, man, we all do that. I don't know what, that's not... You form opinions of things based on the time you have with them.
Yeah.
I know, I do that
That's
too.
That's
Yeah,
also
thank you.
on my entry on the Monster
That's
Manual
actually-
too.
yeah.
Like I actually, they actually
Weirdly
took
enough,
this
yeah.
for my one. So
Let me scroll down to the Mikey entry. I think there's a lot in common, actually. It also says something about you preserving and protecting, I think.
yeah, and like wanting to be one of the greater races. Like that's just everyone though. Come on,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Good dragons can recognize humanoid bloodlines by smell, sniffing out each person they meet and remembering any relatives they have come into contact with over the years. A gold dragon might never suspect duplicity from a cunning villain, assuming that the villain is of the same mind and heart as a good and virtuous grandmother. On the other hand, the dragon might resent a noble paladin whose ancestor stole a silver statue from the dragon's hoard 3 centuries before. So again, there's just sort of an interesting way to foil their like senses and like their capacity for reason and give them a source of conflict. Give the players a reason to be like, why is that dragon an arsehole?
Yeah. I don't know. I know.
just like 2 players at a bar, like just the 2. Why is that dragon such an arsehole? Don't know.
No.
Just like
Sorry.
other round.
Pints.
Yeah,
Pub. That sniffing out the bloodlines thing reminds me of also another game with Brafu, where he's doing Rise of Tiamat, and I'm pretty sure during that, for like just in the book, there is a council of metallic dragons that you have to kind of help, but Stephen being an excellent DM, he kind of switched it up into his own style there, but he had each of the metallic dragons had like kind of almost had a tie to each of us, and with my character Lucas, he had a dragon kind of sniff me, and we're like, hold on, who are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm Lucas Temper. And then like, Temper, I know that name. And then he just kind of mentioned an ancestor from like years ago, and I'm like, I never met that one. Like, and it was like ages ago, but he was able to like notice by just sniffing me, and that's exactly what the book says here. So that's kind of cool.
that is cool. Yeah, I like that.
King of Good Dragons. The Good King. The chief deity of the metallic dragons is Bahamut, the platinum dragon. He dwells in the 7 heavens of Mount Celestia. There's 7 heavens and there's 9 hells? What are you going to do with all these demi-planes?
What are you going to do with all these fucking planes, man? Where are they all going to land, Who's going to build these runways?
Are you going to use them? You don't have that much angels, do you? There's only like 12 solar or something. How much was it again?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
12 or 24 or something.
Jesus, come on, man. Anyway, sorry. But often he dwells the 7 heavens of Mount Celestia, but often wanders the material plane in the magic guise of a venerable human male in peasant robes. In this form, he's usually accompanied by 7 golden canaries, actually 7 ancient gold dragons in polymorph form. Bahamut seldom interferes in the affairs of mortal creatures, though he makes exceptions to help thwart the machinations of Tiamat, the Dragon Queen, and her evil brood. Gold-aligned. It could be
gold-aligned clerics.
It could be gold-aligned if we're a gold dragon.
Yeah,
Good-aligned clerics and paladins sometimes worship Bahamut for his dedication to justice and protection. As a lesser god, he has the power to grant divine spells.
You have the power to grant divine spells because you're a lesser god. What does that mean? What's a lesser god? Like, does that mean like they're level 27 or something instead of 30? Like,
listen here, Bahamut. Here's the thing: clerics and druids can cast divine spells. That's how it works. They're divine casters.
This is how the game works.
Yeah.
What is a lesser god? I'm just curious. It's just interesting. Like, I think this is the first time the monster manual has said this is the category of god someone is.
Yeah, I never would have thought Bahamut is a lesser god, whatever that is. But
given how much they use Tiamat in adventures, you would think that the two of them would be pretty important.
Yeah.
So that does surprise me.
But maybe because they're like always popping up in the mortal realm, they're kind of lesser.
Oh, I get you. Yeah, yeah.
They're kind of like down the pecking order because they're closer to like the
real gods are playing like 4D chess in 7 heaven.
Yeah, like just 7th heaven. Yeah, the place where Tifa works in Final Fantasy 7.
Oh, there you go. That explains it.
Yeah.
That's probably why he's fucking hanging out there all the time.
Excellent.
He dwells in the 7 heavens. Does that mean he's in like all of them? Like, is he really long? Like he lies across all 7 heavens at once?
Maybe, yeah. I like that idea of
That'd
it.
be fun.
That he's just huge, like
sort of like a Jormungandr, like a world.
Yeah,
serpent. That'd be cool.
That's very cool. And he can just like pop his head into any of the planes at any time because he's just that big. That's very cool. Maybe like when you're in one of the planes, there's always like there's Mount Celestia, of course, but there's like far away mountains in the like huge mountains in the distance, but that's actually just Bahamut lying down.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. The spine of the King of Dragons.
Yeah.
Shall we jump into brass dragons because we have more stuff to read?
We do, yeah. So today we're going to talk about brass dragons. They're dragons and they're brass. So I shall just read it out here. Brass dragon. The most gregarious of the true dragons, brass dragons crave conversation, sunlight, and hot, dry climates. A brass dragon's head is defined by the broad, protective plate that expands from its forehead and the spikes protruding from its chin. A frill runs the length of its neck, and its tapering wings extend down the length of its tail. A brass dragon wormling's scales are a dull, malted brown. As it ages, the dragon's scale begins to shine, eventually taking on a warm, burnished luster. Its wings and frills are mottled green towards the edges, darkening with age. As a brass dragon grows older, its pupils fade until the eyes resemble molten metal orbs. So a bit of fun imagery there for the brass dragon. They actually do look pretty cool in the book. I kind of like their head design. Like have a little kind of like
it is
like a little like a beard almost on their chin.
Yeah, they got the little beard and the kind of like this, like the big sides, almost like a stegosaurus or something.
I would think that if he turns into a human, he just has a little
goatee. He had a little goatee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. No matter what form they take, they always have a little goatee.
Always have even like he's like a dog and has a little goatee.
Like a fish. A tiny beard. Boldly talkative, a brass dragon engages in conversations with thousands of creatures throughout its long life, accumulating useful information which it will gladly share for gifts of treasure. If an intelligent creature tries to leave a brass dragon's presence without engaging in conversation, the dragon follows it. If the creature attempts to escape by magic or force, the dragon might respond with a fit of pique, using its sleep gas to incapacitate the creature. When it wakes, the creature finds itself pinned to the ground by giant claws or buried up to its neck in the sand while the dragon's thirst for small talk is slaked. A dragon is trusting of creatures that appear to enjoy conversation as much as it does, but is smart enough to know when it is being manipulated. When that happens, the dragon often responds in kind, treating a bout of mutual trickery as a game.
That's a bit of fun.
That thing about kidnapping people is kind of fucked up, huh?
It is, yeah. I thought these were the good guys.
I thought they were the goodies.
I'm just kidnapping someone. Excuse me?
It's because I'm bored.
Okay. Seems like a fun guy. Yeah, I actually, when you said sleep gas, I was going to like make a joke there and say, my sleep gas, but that's just its breath weapon, right?
Yeah, man. It just actually has sleep gas.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm going to just read the last paragraph, and then I want to talk a little bit about the history of the brass dragon, because there's actually some interesting stuff.
Gotcha. Do it.
Prized treasures. We're still going. Brass dragons covet magic items that allow them to converse with interesting personalities. I actually think this is kind of interesting. An intelligent telepathic weapon or a magic lamp with a djinn bound inside are among the greatest treasures a brass dragon can possess. Brass dragons conceal their hoards under mounds of sand or in safe places far from their primary layers. They have no trouble remembering where their treasure is buried and therefore have no need for maps. Adventurers and wanderers should be wary if they happen across a chest hidden in an oasis or a treasure cache tucked away in a half-buried desert ruin, for these might be parts of a brass dragon's hoard.
That's fun. You can then he can kidnap you and play some mind trickery games with you, as the last paragraph talked about, or something.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, there's some interesting crossover there.
Where you take his box and then he doesn't like you.
And he takes your soul.
He takes your soul,
and it's a game.
Yeah.
But I think the idea of like the thing it's most interested in as treasure is like something you can talk to, because I think that immediately gives like the players a really good in, right? Like they know if we can find intelligent items or items that have creatures trapped inside it, that's what the brass dragon wants.
Yeah.
And like maybe we don't want it as much. Like maybe we've trapped like a lesser demon or devil in like an iron flask or something.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily need it, and like actually we're just carrying it out of obligation, but now we can trade it to this brass dragon and get something we actually want, like even if it's just information, and now it's no longer our problem as well.
Yeah, maybe you just find it like an urn of talking or something that all it does is talk and that's it, and you're like
or the rock of facts.
Rock of facts, yeah. So
that'd be so good if it was like, you know, like sneak solution to the problem was like give the brass dragon the rock of facts and it'll do whatever you want.
Shall we explain the rock of facts for the people now?
You should. Yeah, you can give it a try.
Once again, in the game with Brafu the Holy Man, he had a magic item called the Rock of Facts, and every time it didn't happen every time you asked it, but it can like not say a fact if it want to. But if you just said to it Rock of Facts, then Stephen would go to his shared world setting, Talas Wiki, his pride and joy, his baby, and he would press a random article page, and the Rock of Facts would tell you something about the world from that random article generator. And it was the best magic item in the world. And then I think at one point someone was like, "That's my Rock of Facts," and we had to give it away, and we were like mortified. It was like no character death ever in that campaign was as worse than when we lost the Rock of Facts, I think. So. But that could have helped with a brass dragon, I think.
Just thought like it would fucking love something that just talks at it.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about the brass dragon is that obviously here we have the sort of weird like suggestion of like it'll kidnap somebody, and you're like, wait, what? But what's interesting about the brass dragon is like in the original monster manual, the brass dragon is the Draco Impudentus Gallus. So it's a lot of what we know before. They prefer the desert. It says that brass dragons are quite forward and officious, and they love to converse. They are rather selfish and tend towards neutrality because of this. So they're actually chaotic good neutral tendencies is their alignment according to the first edition book. There's a really fucking, there's basically like they get put down in the second edition book. It says, brass dragons are great talkers, but not particularly good conversationalists.
Come on.
Which
That's
is
their
like,
thing.
which is like so fucking funny.
Yeah.
They're egotistical and often boorish. They often have useful information, but will divulge it only after drifting off the subject many times, after hints that a gift would be appreciated.
So
in other words...
talking shite.
Yeah, so they're literally like the old boy at the pub talking shite.
Yeah.
You can't get them to fucking focus.
Unless you buy him a pint or something.
Unless you buy them a fucking pint, and then you get like the information on like, I don't know who shot your brother. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
like
But like, yeah. So that's the Brass Dragon in second edition. In third edition, they have very similar description. This is weird, right? In the fourth edition book, the metallic dragons weren't in the monster manual. They never got a write-up. Instead, excuse me. That's better. Okay. Instead, there was a book called The Dragonomicon, which was basically a splat book all about dragons. And then there was the Dragonomicon 2,
ooh.
and that one was about metallic dragons. And so there's one entire book devoted to metallic dragons. But before that came out, there was no stat block for metallic dragons. You couldn't actually run them in 4th edition. The monster manual, the first monster manual, just had chromatic dragons.
Okay.
But in that, they're kind of, they're weird because the brass dragons, in fact, all the metallic dragons are weird because there's this thing where like they're written in 4th edition, I think deliberately closer to the neutral evil side of things.
Right.
Because they want to give, because the point of the book in some ways is to give the players a way to fight the dragon.
Right.
So it's a little different again, but yeah, just I thought that was interesting that actually the brass dragon didn't get a write up in the monster manual. This is the 4th edition, the only time that has happened.
Yeah.
That the metallic dragons have been cut from the first monster manual. There's also another cool fact, which is that it doesn't have it had different breath weapons back in AD&D, but we will get to that when we're talking about meat and potatoes.
Right. Okay. I want to know about that, but you can tell me later.
Lots of there you go.
Excellent.
Isn't that exciting?
Well, speaking of which, how about we just keep on rolling and we just get into the stat block?
Yeah, man.
Let's do that.
Absolutely.
All right.
It's like you're just yelling. It's really funny to me. It's just like you're like the pain of being alive.
I'm just doing my vocal exercises.
You guys don't do vocal exercises? How do you get your throat ready for like talking and
That's
stuff?
not.
Like, you don't do like a.
You sound in pain.
That's not what that is.
It's not vocal exercises. You're wrecking your voice by doing that. All right. Ancient brass dragon.
That's so fucking funny.
Yeah. So we're gonna do the ancient guy, and then we're gonna go briefly over the rest of them. So
Yes.
ancient brass dragon. Are you right there? I'm trying to read here, and you're laughing at me. All right. Ancient.
Tried to hold it in and I couldn't. I'm sorry. I should have just laughed at first, and it would have been gone. Oh,
All right. Go do you seriously. Ancient brass dragon.
shit! That's it. Come on, that's unfair.
Ancient brass dragon, gargantuan dragon, chaotic good. Armor class 20, natural armor, hit points 297, speed 40 feet, burrow speed 40 feet, and fly 80 feet. So good stuff there. Burrow because I guess in the desert, like
yeah, like getting through sand and stuff like that.
yeah,
I think the
Blue?
Is it the blue dragon has the burrow speed as well? Because they're both sort of desert dwellers.
Yeah.
I'll just double check that. You keep reading.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it does. But strength 27, dex 10, constitution 25, intelligence 16, wisdom 15, charisma 19. So yeah, some just good dragon rolls there. And I just want to see with charisma or with something. Is that any higher than any of the other guys?
What's interesting actually, just because I was checking there, because obviously the blue dragon is kind of the evil counterpart to the brass dragon. Blue dragon actually has higher charisma,
Right.
And I think so. Like, there's kind of the implication that, like, although I think there used to be lore. It seems to not feature in this book, but there used to be lore that the brass dragon was the least of the metallic dragons, so it was like the weakest. So that basically the idea was like, in a one-on-one fight, a blue dragon normally beats a brass dragon.
Okay.
Like, it's bigger and stronger, but like brass dragons are better at cooperating and stuff like that. Like, they're better at like getting a team together or like getting help from other creatures, and like blue dragons have a harder time with that because they're more sort of selfish.
Yeah. Well, that's
And obviously, brass dragons love to talk, so they're good at finding allies.
yeah. Excellent. That's cool. Saving throws: Dex +6, Constitution +13, Wisdom +8, Charisma +10. So, by the looks of it, just regular dragon saving throws, I think.
Yeah, the dragon saving throws, which is Dex, Con, and Wiz, which are the three kind of quote-unquote good saving throws. And then they all get Charisma, which I think is supposed to represent that they're very willful creatures.
Yeah.
And a lot of Charisma saves are to do with stuff like banishing the creature, or like actually I have no idea what else they do.
Yeah, I think you can't put them in maze, so it'll be harder to put them in maze anyway. Skills: history +9, perception +14, persuasion +10, stealth +6. All regular dragon stuff. Is history something different though?
History and persuasion are the two unique ones for them.
Right. Okay.
So every dragon gets perception and stealth.
Yeah.
As far as I think. Actually, I'll double check that. Yes.
By the sounds of it, does.
So they all get perception and stealth. Perception for spotting things, stealth for hiding. So obviously the brass dragon gets persuasion because he's sort of the talker, as you say.
Yeah.
And then maybe history, because the idea is that one of the ways that you might use a brass dragon in your story is that because they talk to so many people, they just know lots of things.
Yeah.
Like they've just talked to lots of different people. Like if you imagine that an ancient brass dragon is like whatever, maybe 700 years old. If it's had like 700 years worth of conversations, it just knows lots of things.
Yeah. Makes sense. It very much makes sense. So it's cool.
Yeah.
Damage immunities: fire, senses, blind sight 60 feet, dark vision 120 feet, with a passive perception of 24. Languages: common and draconic, and challenge rating 20. That's 24,500 experience points. Hero.
I think that's the lowest. I think I suppose, in some ways it's implied here. I think that's the lowest challenge among ancient dragons.
Yeah.
It's challenge 20.
yeah.
I think we've all seen higher than 20, at least in the chromatic dragons.
20 is the white dragon's 20, and
oh, fair enough.
and that's really it. Everyone else seems to be above that. So
So I guess 20 is maybe the minimum. So it's the minimum an ancient dragon can be, at least as far as sort of 5e rules are concerned.
yeah. And he gets a legendary resistance, 3 a day. If the dragon fails a saving throw, it can choose to succeed instead. Classic boss monster feat. So that's a cool one. Daniel, would you like to do the actions?
I will do the actions. We've got some new actions.
Hooray.
So, but first we've got to do all the ones we always do. Multi-attack. Aww. He's history's greatest monster. The dragon can use its frightful presence. It then makes 3 attacks, 1 with its bite and 2 with its claws. The bite is +14 to hit, 15-foot reach, 1 target, 19 or 2d10 +8 piercing damage. The claws are also +14 to hit, but they're 10-foot reach, and they are 2d6 +8 or an average of 15 damage. Then, of course, there's the tail, which has the same to hit modifier of +14. It's got the longer reach of 20, and it does 2d8 +8 bludgeoning damage, or 17 on average, on hit. Then we got the frightful presence.
Hooray.
Each creature of the dragon's choice that is within 120 feet of the dragon and aware of it must succeed on a DC 18 wisdom saving throw or become frightened for 1 minute. A creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. If a creature saving throw is successful or the effect ends for it, the creature is immune to the dragon's frightful presence for the next 24 hours. So that's just a sort of a frighten ability that's long range, big AoE. The dragon gets it for free. It's sort of the multi-attacks. They'll just use it as much as they can.
We mention it in every single dragon episode.
It literally, they all have the same powers. But hey, look, now we get something different. Breath weapons, recharge 5/6. The dragon uses one of the following breath weapons because it has 2 choices. Unlike the chromatic dragons that we have covered before, all of the metallic dragons get a choice of breath weapons. Why this is, I don't know. Fire breath. The dragon exhales a 90-foot line that is 10 foot wide. Each creature in that line must succeed a DC 21 dexterity saving throw, taking 56 or 16d6 fire damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful save. Otherwise, it can use its sleep breath. The dragon exhales sleep gas in a 90-foot cone.
Watch out for
each
my
creature in that
sleep
area.
gas, hero.
I wonder, I assume you can breathe less if you want to just kidnap the one dude.
Yeah.
Which obviously we know the dragon loves to do.
Yep.
Each creature in that area must succeed a DC 21 Constitution saving throw. So there you go. It uses either Dex or Con, or fall unconscious for 10 minutes. This effect ends if the creature takes damage or someone uses an action to wake them. So this is just the same as the sleep spell, I believe.
Yeah.
If you take damage or someone wakes you, you wake up, and that's it.
I'm starting to get the flavor for Sleep Breath now because he talks a lot and you fall asleep.
Oh, yeah.
So
you
of
get
course,
bored and...
yeah, of course, this is like a supernatural, literal sleep gas thing. But also that when you talk to him, you just get so bored, because that's when they said in the older editions and some of them that he talks shite and he doesn't really say.
Talk shite. He's actually not a good person to talk to. Yeah.
Yeah. So you go to sleep. All right, that's fun.
Finally, we have the other new ability that all the metallic dragons get. In fact, sorry, let me clarify. All of the ancient metallic dragons have this ability. Change shape. The dragon magically polymorphs into a humanoid or beast that has a challenge rating no higher than its own, or back to its true form. It reverts to its true form if it dies. Any equipment it is wearing or carrying is absorbed or borne by the new form, the dragon's choice. In a new form, the dragon retains its alignment, hit points, hit dice, ability to speak, proficiency, legendary resistance, lair actions, and intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores, as well as this action. Its statistics and capabilities are otherwise replaced by those of the new form, except any class features or legendary actions of that form.
Yeah, so you can do that dragon in disguise as a...
Yeah. Finally, it has legendary actions. We've done this.
We have.
And same as they always are. It's detect, tail attack, and wing attack.
Detect makes you see stuff better. Tail attack, you do an attack again.
Use a tail attack.
And wing attack, you beat your wings and people, whoa, no, I'm knocked back, and you fly. There.
Yeah, exactly. So now I will tell you the fun part, which is, hey, the dragon didn't used to breathe fire. Back in AD&D, the brass dragon still had a choice. The brass dragon attacks by breathing either of its two weapons, a cone of sleep gas, or a billowing cloud of fear gas. So there you go. So it was either a cone of fear or a cloud, more like fog cloud in sort of radius.
And what was the reasoning for that? A fear gas? Is there anything that,
It doesn't specify. It just says that they have these two. I think the idea was just that, they both had. It was sort of like they were like this, almost like the, what's what I'm looking for. It's almost like they were kind of. Like a non-hostile dragon,
right.
So the brass dragon doesn't actually like fighting; it prefers talking.
Yeah.
So I think the idea was both of its breaths were non-lethal, they would end fights rather than rather than just kill you, they would just make you fall asleep or make you run away, and that ends the fight, and the dragon doesn't have to fight you anymore.
Yeah.
Because the brass dragon is supposed to be weakest among dragons, which is still obviously pretty strong. That ability, by the way, was gone after first edition. By second edition, when we were fucking dragging the brass dragon, we also got
shite talkers, lads. Don't talk to them.
Listen to me. They're full of shit. Instead, by second edition, they got a choice of a cone of sleep gas, exactly the same as we're used to, or a cloud of blistering desert heat, and the heat was just fire damage. It's just fire breath, but with a different name. So that didn't last long. But if you are thinking about how maybe your brass dragon is, you know what, I'm sick and tired of always having fire breath and sleep breath, fear breath. I mean, you already have frightful presence, so it's sort of undermined.
Yeah.
But oops.
Yeah, maybe you can just jigger around your frightful presence as a fear breath. I guess you can kind of do it might be the same mechanically on the block, but you can just can you just paint the picture for your players that he actually does a fear breath. It's not as cool as just the dragon intimidating you, but if you really wanted to stick with that fear breath idea, you could do that.
You could always change its rules so that it has basically rather than a frightful presence, it has a frightful aura. Yeah. Represented by the cloud. So if you get too close, you have to make the saving throw because you're scared of it because of the fear gas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just there you go. I thought that was pretty cool.
It is.
It used to have a different kind of breath. It's interesting as well that it was a cloud of fear. It's not a line or a cone. It's I think the implication is that it basically they make it and then it starts moving off on its own because it's a cloud.
It's like Scarecrow.
So potentially, yeah, basically, yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I like that. That's fun. Well, that's cool. We have more of those brass dragons, though. So the adult brass
Yeah.
dragon basically has everything there except for the chain shape and everything
Yes.
like the hit points, the armor class, the attack damage, and the saving throws. They're all brought down just a little bit more.
Yeah, it got shrunk,
Yeah.
and it's smaller in size as well.
Yes, it's now a huge dragon instead of a gargantuan dragon. But it's just, just a little bit weaker, so a little bit easier to fight if you want your players to fight it or encounter it at a lower level. The young
Yes.
brass dragon is, a little bit down there a bit more. Armor class just a little bit weaker. Hit points weaker. It only has a bite and a claw attack, and it only has
And it loses all the legendary features.
all legendary features and the, of course, change shape, but still keeps the fire breath and sleep breath, but only has multi-attack and breath weapons now. And the wee babby is a wee babby and only has bite and breath weapons. So, and of course, it's weaker in health and
Yep. And it only speaks Draconic, doesn't speak Common yet.
yes, that's right. That's that. That's the brass dragon stat blocks.
And then we've got the lair.
Let's do the layers then.
A brass dragon's lair. A brass dragon's desert lair is typically a ruin, canyon, or cave network with ceiling holes to allow for sunlight. Lair actions. On initiative count 20, losing initiative ties, the dragon takes a lair action to cause one of the following effects. A strong wind blows around the dragon. Each creature within 60 feet of the dragon must succeed on a DC 15 strength saving throw or be pushed 15 feet away from the dragon and knocked prone. Gases and vapors are dispersed by the wind, and unprotected flames are extinguished. Protected flames, such as lanterns, have a 50% chance of being extinguished.
Roll the dice.
Roll the percentile. Flip a coin, hero.
Up, your lamp is extinguished.
If only there was some sort of contrip or easy spell that made things emit light and didn't rely on flame. If only such a spell
I have
existed.
dark vision. I don't use it. I see in the dark. I look in the dark.
I just look. I use my eyes. You fucking see.
I wait for daytime
because he's huge.
I sleep.
I sleep. I just wait. A cloud of sand swirls about in a 20-foot radius sphere centered on a point the dragon can see within 120 feet of it. Thank you very much. The cloud spreads around corners.
Yes.
Now I know.
Ding, 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 ding. That's all, folks.
Each creature.
Time to go home.
That's all. You can call there. Each creature in it must succeed on a DC 15 Constitution saving throw or be blinded for 1 minute. A creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success.
Cool.
So, those are both kind of interesting. Do we do the regional effects now, or do we do them later?
The region containing a legendary brass dragon's lair is warped by a dragon's magic, which creates one or more of the following effects. Tracks appear in the sand within 6 miles of the dragon's lair. The tracks lead to safe shelters and hidden water sources, while also leading away from areas that the dragon prefers to remain undisturbed. I really like that regional effect. I think that's very cool.
Yeah, that's great.
It just kind of might add, your players might not even go up against or even encounter the brass dragon, but just having that, even though the brass dragon might want to talk to your players, but just having that in like a deserty area is very cool and adds a bit of mystery.
It's great local lore. It's just
Yes.
that like the people who live in this desert know about this and use it, and like they just have a local name for like, like the steps of our ancestors or something. Like they think it's maybe like the ghosts of other people who lived here before, making sure that they don't fall in the desert like they have before and stuff like that.
And
whatever. And that's immediately like you're learning a little bit about the people who live here.
And it's actually also like Zelda Ocarina of Time with the desert, or maybe you can only go through the desert in a certain way, and only if like the desert wants you to go through. But that's what the people think. It's actually if the brass dragon wants you to go through it, he will lead you through it with like footsteps, magical footsteps.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's fun. Anyway, there's more. Images of large or smaller monsters haunt the desert sands within 1 mile of the dragon's lair. These illusions move and appear real, although they can do no harm. A creature that examines an image from a distance can tell it's an illusion with successful DC 20 intelligence investigation check. Any physical interaction with an image reveals it to be an illusion because objects pass through it. So that just adds to the fun little factor there of local lore. I think that's kind of like you can go that way and that way. The desert actually leads you there, but don't go to certain areas because there's monsters roaming there. And then your player's like, "Oh, cool, monsters! Oh, I'll fight that." Like, this is just a hologram. Come on.
Oh man.
Oh, man. Number 3. Whenever a creature with an intelligence of 3 or higher comes within 30 feet of a water source within 1 mile of the dragon's lair, the dragon becomes aware of the creature's presence and location. That's fun. I like that. If you find an oasis, then the dragon just, like, knows you're there. Or even, has to be a water source? A well?
Yeah, just a source of water. Yeah, well, yeah.
Water skin? Maybe?
I don't think that's a source.
Nah. If the dragon dies, the tracks fade in 1d10 days, but the other effects fade immediately. That's the regional effects.
Yeah. So just off the top of my head, I was going to say, by the way, that the dragon, unlike a lot of other legendary creatures, only has 2 layer actions rather than 3. So potentially a third could be to add that cloud of fear gas.
Right. Okay.
Just as an alternative, because it does appear like you've got 1 to knock prone, 1 to blind, and so that one that causes fear would be like they all cause conditions. Obviously, again, doesn't necessarily play super well with frightened, with frightful presence. But maybe it's stronger or weaker, or it behaves differently in a way that means that if your players have resisted frightful presence, this becomes more valuable.
Yeah. Did you say legendary action there? I think because maybe I heard you.
Did I? Sorry, I meant layer.
If you did,
Apologies.
yeah, we
Maybe I
read
did
layer
say.
actions there. Cool.
Yes.
No problem. That'll be fun. Yeah, just another bit of another thing to put into layer there, like a kind of like a frightful kind of smoky, cloudy thing going around, where it has like the strong wind and the sand, the cloud of sand, so that can kind of be added on top of that too. So, shall we just hop straight into the next part?
Okay, so dessert. So fight with the dragon.
We haven't really matrix roomed dragons in a while because they all kind of been the same since episode 1.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say about the brass dragon in terms of matrix rooming, in terms of like what you want to do, how you want to play it. Sleep breath. If the dragon exhale, they fall unconscious for 10 minutes, and it only ends if they take damage or someone uses an action to wake them. So like the dragon can still grapple an unconscious creature, and then like either put it in like a jail cell or like just fly away with it.
Yeah, I was thinking that if it doesn't want to like start a fight, then it'll probably just put you to sleep and then like put you in a cell. Like, all right, did you have time to think about not to attack me? Good.
Yeah.
Time out.
I'm doing a big timeout.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how much we necessarily want to matrix room any dragon, because they're all sort of similar.
It's all been similar. Yeah, it's kind of other than the sleep breath, it's a fine fight. He does some hits. He has a fire breath, and he has a good few legendary actions that'll keep you going. It's fine. Like it's a fun
dragons
fight.
are dragons are. I think if dragons in 5e have a problem, it's that they do all sort of take from the same pool of abilities.
Yeah.
And they don't really necessarily get to change it a lot. Like they get their breath weapons, and they get obviously their like layers and regional effects, but they don't necessarily get a lot of like individual differences.
Yeah.
Which you can solve by using the optional spellcasting rules and stuff like that. But it just I'd say like if they have a problem, it would be that.
Yeah, the only difference they have is maybe the flavor, I guess, but you don't really get to use that too much in fights, like, or even at all. You just have that for like maybe pre-role play at the start or kind of building up, but the actual fight itself, not too different. So, as you said, Daniel, maybe adding spells, that's fine. Cool. So, do you have any ideas for brass dragons then for a adventure?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of pretty cool ideas just in the lore description we get here. Obviously, there's the fact that they like to talk to people.
Yeah.
So even in an adventure not about brass dragons, they can feature a bit part where they just want to talk to the party because the party have probably led interesting lives, and the dragon just wants to hear about those things. How much you want to play up the fact that they do all the talking versus they like to hear things is kind of up to you. Obviously, in the previous editions of the game, the implication was very much that dragons did most of the talking. But I think there should probably be a balance there, because the other implication is that they have gained information from these conversations. So they must have at some point like listened. And obviously, when they do listen, they obviously pay attention and keep those things in mind.
Yeah, because they do have like a good history check, and that kind of means that they do listen to something. I just having this idea now of, and I don't know how you play this in D&D, but kind of like a escape game, but it's more of a like trying to be a polite guest, but I don't want to listen to this really boring brass dragon kind of, where you're trapped in his lair and you want to get out of there because he keeps talking to you and he doesn't want you to leave, but you want to be polite and you don't want to say to him, I want to go.
Yeah.
Like, but you have to find a way to be polite and say, we got another thing to do. Like, oh, of course, I'll go with you. Like, actually, it's we don't need you.
That would actually be such a fucking great party if the adventure was like, you are all really important people.
Yeah.
You have been kidnapped by a brass dragon for a tea party, and the collected armies of your nations and allies are outside. You have to de-escalate this situation while being a polite party guest.
Yeah.
Like, that would be so much crack as like just a one-off adventure. Like, you know, you have to be like, you're the fucking king of some country, but you have to like sort of play off your general who's like, let's just fucking kill him and take all this shit and like run the kingdom off the funds. And you're like, no, hang on.
Yeah.
Let's not do that. That's a bad idea. I don't think it'll go down that smooth. And also trying to appear like a good guest and stuff like that. That could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's just one of my crazy semi-high concept games, or just like more like just idea games that I want to do. So, but that's fun.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
Like that idea. But the thing about brass dragons, not a lot of people are playing evil characters. So most of the time, as I said at the start of the game, people tend to meet them as just more like NPCs than actual monsters that you fight. You know, more people that you talk to, and all that stuff. The stat here is here, of course, because it has to be, because it's a monster. But it's more of the kind of the paragraphs here that you want to know about using this guy, I think, where he's a talker. He does all this stuff like he likes treasures that talk to him, and that's stuff like that, and his lairs, and it's all cool for that. But you kind of want to use him that way, really, I think, where he can be a powerful ally, he can be a fun ally. There's something fun about just this kind of goofy dragon that always wants, it's just a bit of a shy talker, but also is an ancient dragon and is a super powerful entity. It's kind of a fun little juxtaposition there. So
and there's a lot to be said about like how as far as like draconic allies go, you could understand how a brass dragon might be easier to recruit than other dragons, because a brass dragon just wants to talk to people.
Yeah.
So if you were able to like promise them interesting conversations, like, you know, if you had a base of operations and you had like other allies there, and you're like, well, we've got this base full of interesting people, you could hang out there and talk to them, they'd probably join you just so that they could fucking talk shit at people for hours. And like that immediately kind of creates a fun dynamic. And now you've kind of got this really powerful ally, but like they're kind of, they definitely have that power, but they're mostly just like a useless person who goes on and on about stuff.
Yeah, and there, as we said, there is something very funny about the dragon, like this powerful dragon ally, and everyone just like, I don't really want to talk to him. He doesn't really listen. He just goes on and on, even though he's this mythical, amazing creature that I have no idea exists in this world. But I thought he would be different. But it's just,
I thought he'd be more interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then obviously there's the whole situation where it has sort of remote treasure hoards.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff there that you can play with. I think and this is sort of more Dragon as a bit part rather than Dragon as a story. But I think if you wanted to set up some tension, you could have basically either the party find something in one of these treasure hoards. They upset a brass dragon and the brass dragon comes after them. I think more interesting than that is like using more of this stuff. Like basically I would use the sort of tracks and the images of like illusory monsters, and maybe imply that like there's a part of the desert that the dragon doesn't want anyone to go to. And like that part of the desert is like where the brass dragon caches its cursed relics, because as we learned before in the metallic dragon sections, they take evil items as treasure so that they are quote unquote safe. So there's an interesting dynamic there where like maybe the party hear rumors about this like awful cursed, like, you know, dangerous part of the desert, and maybe some parties just go, well, fuck that then, let's not go there. But some of them will be like, I wonder why it's cursed, I wonder what's going on, and maybe that curiosity leads them there, and so then they get to find these like cursed items. And obviously, the reason these are hidden is because they're really powerful and cool, and the party will want to use them, but they are evil and cursed.
Yeah.
Like, they're 100% evil and cursed, and if the party start using them, the dragon probably finds out that their treasure has gone missing and then makes movement to stop you guys.
Yeah.
And how they do that is kind of up to the DM, but like, it could be as, as straightforward as like the dragon confronts you and demands that you hand it back. Or it could be like the dragon starts to send agents against you to sort of try to clandestinely steal back the relic and stuff like that.
What's this about kidnapping people? Can we do anything with that? That's kind of strange.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, the dragon incapacitates people until it's satisfied it's talked to them enough.
Right.
So potentially a plot about someone interesting going missing could be as simple as they were stolen by a brass dragon, which is actually kind of interesting. Like maybe like the PC's mentor or someone who they rely on, like a sage or a wizard who like identifies items or makes magic items for them, has suddenly vanished.
Yeah.
And the quest to recover them, it like makes you, leads you to encounter a brass dragon.
And it's not really much of a fight. He's just this kind of strange, talky dragon. That's really it.
Yeah, well, like, the brass dragon's not necessarily that interested in fighting, but maybe then the brass dragon like puts you to sleep and keeps you as well. And that leads into the sort of adventure you suggested, Mikey, of like, you want to leave the dinner party, but you don't want to be impolite.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun, and also is a different kind of challenge to maybe what we expect from the brass dragon.
Yeah.
Or like the obvious other thing would be like, so like, the brass dragon is immune to fire. So it might be the case that the brass dragon is kind of thoughtless, because we have the idea that they're kind of just this talking shy person who doesn't necessarily pay attention to other people that much. So it might be not like, it might just be that like their lair is so innately dangerous to people who aren't immune to fire damage that like it's hard to leave, not because the brass dragon is stopping you, just because like the brass dragon won't escort you out.
Yeah. It's kind of really warm out there. Please, can we?
Yeah, it's like a fucking sweltering desert, or like, there's like two big panes of glass trap all this heat in like a fucking microwave corridor that you have to walk out of or something.
Maybe you just can't leave as well, where he actually just kind of he doesn't really kidnap you. He just goes like, we're gonna go for tea back at my place, and he picks you up and flies you miles to his lair, and you're like, wait, actually, and then like, oh, you can leave any time, and then, can I get a lift? No, you're gonna stay here and have more tea.
I'm in the middle of something. Yeah. I'm hosting this tea party.
Yeah.
Like, but you're happy. You're welcome to leave whenever.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't know where the desert is. You don't know where the fuck your home is. You don't know where anything is. You're like, oh, great, okay.
You gotta like, call a wizard or something, and like, I got nothing, man.
I don't know. You're in a desert. I don't know.
You take out your magic stone. You have no signal on your magic stone, so you throw it on the ground, step on it. Yeah, but that's fun. I like that. That's actually like, this doesn't really get that people can't really aren't dragons, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just the idea that like, it's like, what do you mean you can't leave? It's like, the fucking corridor is on fire. It's like, yeah, I know. It's to stop people coming in.
Exactly.
It's to stop uninvited guests. You've been invited. What's the problem? I don't understand. I don't have anything else specifically. Nothing that I wouldn't consider like monster hunting. There might be something interesting where like, you like, obviously, so I mean, there's the obvious thing of like, change shape, the dragon is your dad or whatever. Like, that's obviously a possibility. But like, that's sort of the same for all shapeshifters, and that's the same for all metallic dragons. So again, I feel like that's maybe something that we, on an individual basis. Obviously, the idea that there's a weird person in town who just talks shite and then leaves, and it's a brass dragon, is fun. But like, again, I don't think that's an adventure.
Yeah,
I think that's just like, you can insert that side character and then develop them if the players take interest.
Yeah,
and that's cool.
Like,
and adds mysticism to your world, but I don't think it needs to be.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, as in, it's, if you wanted to kind of do that, have the shy talking character, and also in the desert nearby, it has the regional effects happening. It adds just a little bit of mystery, I guess, and this little bit of fun, and maybe something to go.
That's true. Yeah,
if your players want to look into it, they can. It's just kind of if you want to have like a sandboxy adventure, and that's fun. It kind of adds it adds clues to what's going on, and it kind of gives it paints all the information's here in the book. But if your players have an astute eye, then they can pick it out. But of course, as he said, it doesn't really lead to too much of adventure that way. it doesn't lead to like, it's not like much
Yeah,
of a hook.
exactly. Yeah.
It could be a hook if you can think of something, but it's
I think the sort of obvious thing is like basically the brass dragon lives in disguise in the desert town. Maybe like they claim that they're like a guide and that's how they make their money.
yeah,
But they just like bring very small amounts of money into town, like go to the tavern and just literally like drink and talk shite because it's all they want to do.
how do you know your way through this desert, old man? How do I know? Indeed. And he clicks his fingers and he turns into a dragon and flies away. Like,
Yeah. Or like, the regional effects are like tracks appear in the sand and they lead to shelter. So like he just says, I don't need to guide it. The tracks lead the way, right? Like he's like, I know how to follow these tracks because like he's making them because they're part of the dragon's magic and stuff like that.
yeah, that's cool.
And then he can be a character who's like, oh, you shouldn't go to that cursed village. And you're like, oh, fuck you, old man. We'll go to that cursed village. And then like a dragon stops you and you're like, who the fuck was that dragon? What's happening? Like,
Yeah.
you try to go to the cursed village and you get like the dragon shows up just to sleep breath you and vanish. And you're like,
Yeah.
what's happening?
And maybe actually you can kind of like, you can be like, oh, I'm not gonna do that, and you kind of sneak past him, and then you drink some water near him, or not like you drink something from an oasis, and you thought you left him, and then he's like, I know you went there. It's like, what? How do you know that? We snuck past you.
The desert tells me many things. Like you can just be sort of this mysterious, weird shite talker who actually knows this stuff. So yeah, you could do something like that. But like again, that's not an adventure. That's a fun side character for a fun adventure.
Yeah.
Great part of a sandbox if you're kind of including like a desert biome.
Yeah, and if you just wanna create a fun world for your players, that's just a way
And
to
obviously
do it.
there's value in kind of saying like, actually that character who you guys knew from game one was the brass dragon, and like, isn't it fun that sort of this this world is sort of seeded with all this stuff and you can play in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not an adventure. It's just cool.
Yeah. It's just cool.
It's cool and like it's useful, but like as in I suppose what I'm always trying to think of like what's an adventure we can send people on, like because I think stuff like the dragon lives in town is something that any DM can come up with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and
that's good. That's straightforward stuff. That's using your noggin. But like, it's our job to get weird. So like, unless we can do that, it's like handing your gun and your badge.
Yeah, your gun and I'm giving you my gun, but not my badge. But with that,
I'm gonna go arrest a guy with a gun and then I'll have them both back.
But with that said, actually, as we said in all the episodes, but in case this is the only one listening to, we do plan to do a follow-up conclusion episode of dragons in general. So if we have any more ideas for these guys or any other dragons, it will be included in that episode when we get to the end of this series. So keep an eye out for that.
Yes. Yeah, and in that vein, if you have any thoughts about dragons, leave them now, because when we do that big recap, we can also talk about your feedback.
Absolutely,
so,
yeah.
This is one of the few times where we can actually do a back and forth, because normally, obviously, the episodes come out and then they're out.
Yeah.
But because we know we're going to do that, if you guys do have thoughts, if you have any thoughts on any of the dragons or just how to use them or anything about how you used them in the past, it's a good time to submit them, because we actually are going to talk about them all later.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. So let us know through any way that we will say right now.
Yeah, I guess we should do all that now.
Might as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much for listening. This has been Creature Club. If you have enjoyed this, you can subscribe or you can leave a review on whatever podcasting tool you're using. Reviews are good because they tell the thing that puts us places that we're good and other people will want to listen to us. But honestly, because of the fact that that's all it does, if you just recommend it to a friend, that's like the same thing. And then you get to share something with their friends. That's pretty
Absolutely.
cool.
If your friend likes D&D, then show it on to them. Like if they don't know D&D, it's kind of hard to get behind a lot of things we say. But they might enjoy it. But...
I mean, like my partner uses it as a sleep aid, so like there's lots of things you can do with the podcast. It's multifunctional.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation about breakfast there earlier, so it's also a cooking podcast technically.
Yeah.
But yes, if you have enjoyed it, you can do all that stuff. If you do have feedback about the dragons, as we just mentioned, you can reply to us on this Twitter when we post this on Twitter, or just at Creature Club Pod at any stage. Just say, regarding dragons. Here are some thoughts from me. That's great. Obviously, if you have longer form thoughts, you can go on our website, which is creatureclubpodcast.com. There's a contact us form there, and we see those. They go to our joint email, which is creatureclubpodcast@gmail.com. So if you submit on the website or email us, we'll see it that way as well. So we'll see it, whether it's Twitter or whether it's there, it'll get to us.
Yeah.
And we'll try to make sure that we read as many of those contributions as possible before we do our recap episode. So if you do have any thoughts, go back there. Obviously, if you have thoughts in general about the show, you should cuss less, you should cuss more. You shouldn't talk about breakfast. You should do more about breakfast. Yep. All that stuff.
What about second
goes
breakfast?
in the review or goes second breakfast bit. Or it goes in the comment, or it goes, if you send it to us, we'll make sure to review it and give some thought. And other than that, I guess just stay safe.
Stay safe.
Wash your hands. Keep distant. Don't leave the house as much.
Absolutely.
I know it's kind of a pain in the arse.
I've been told that a lot of places in America are kind of opening up again. So all I gotta say to our viewers overseas, try and stay safe, guys. Just please.
Just do your best.
Yeah.
It's not easy over there. It sounds like it's a hard time.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot of people aren't taking it as seriously as they should, which is a dang shame.
So
just like I don't want to make it. I don't want to bring down the tone too much. Just like, you're going to be fine. Just keep your distance.
Absolutely.
Keep conscious of it. And if you're looking for more stuff to do, Mikey has started streaming Majora's Mask on Twitter. On Twitter?
On Twitter.
My brain
on Twitch.
On Twitch. You have become an affiliate. You got
what's the Twitch website? How do I say it? It's twitch.tv/Mike Tellime. I became a Twitch affiliate in a literal night, in a strange
it was very exciting. He got rated, and now he's in with the big boys.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is great. So you can come join us there. Like, if he's streaming, Tim and I are almost certainly going to be in the chat, and like, you can obviously talk to us about D&D.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, I like to sort of try and interpret the lore of Majora's Mask as it's happening.
Yeah.
That's kind of my vibe. I like sort of trying to figure out, like, what's the implication when they say something like this.
A lot of fun kind of creature club dynamic going on there in the chat. So if you guys can come along and join us there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great crack. Like, I was like, have you noticed how no one calls you a Hylian in Majora's Mask? They just say human. Yeah. It's like, isn't that weird? And like, even though you still have the pointy ears. So yeah.
I think my favorite part is when we were playing Ocarina of Time and the flare dancers showed up in the fire temple, and we're just like, who are these guys? Where are they? Why are they here? They're just dancing.
Like, why do we have to kill them? Like, they don't even seem like they're just dance. Like if I left the room, presumably they would keep dancing, right? Like,
the only thing that happened is that the boss music played, and that's it.
Yeah, like, provokes your killer instinct. Yeah. You just begin to attack, and like, but yeah. So it is a great time. That's something. And obviously Timothy's Music, also on twitch.tv. He also streams regularly, and he does a lot of Rocksmith, which is great fun. You can request songs from him. He's got a huge selection. He's a great player. He's got the bass and the guitar. He's got all the strings.
And once again, while he's playing some fantastic music, you'll probably see myself and Dan talking shite in the chat.
Exactly. So again, if you want to fucking hit us up and yell about dragons or whatever, there's the place to do it.
So that's twitch.tv/Mike Tellime and twitch.tv/Timothy's Music. So there you go.
Yeah.
And if you really don't know them, just ask on Twitter, hey, what's your Twitches again? And then we'll send them to you there. Excellent. And that seems to be it. So how about we leave it at there? Next episode, we're going to talk about more dragons or something else. Probably more dragons, but we'll leave it there. I have been Mikey.
And I've been Dan.
Stay cool and stay safe.